Hiya, I'm Dani and I'm product owner for PE at Twinkl. So before joining Twinkl, I was a PE subject lead in a primary school and I've planned and ran mini sports days with varying levels of success, which I'll talk about a bit more later on. I love all things PE, sport and physical activity, and outside of work, I'm very active, as well as being a lifelong Newcastle United fan.
Hi there, I'm Paul Draper. I'm a content writer and editor in the PE team. Similar to Dani, previously been a PE lead within a primary school, running sports days, different initiatives within the school to really raise the awareness of PE and sport as part of well-being. Always been passionate about sport, similar to Dani there, and getting kids involved and sport for all as well, and all children being involved in physical activity for those lifelong experiences that I've had positive experiences from sport. So nice to meet you all.
So in this session, we aim to give you a variety of tools, tips and ideas that you can take away and tailor to the unique needs of your setting and the children in it. Every setting's different, so there's no one-size-fits-all model for a successful sports day. Therefore, your sports day might look completely different to another school's, and that's completely okay. So first we'll look at where and when your sports day will take place. Then we'll move on to look at the why and the what, so the aim of your sports day and what you can do to achieve this. Next, we'll look at the who and the how, so the logistics of the day. After that, we'll look at how to ensure your sports day is inclusive for all learners. And then we'll showcase some of our Twinkl resources, share our top tips, and there'll be a bit of time for question and answers at the end.
All right, so where and when the sports day should take place. It depends on your school and your setting, what facilities you've got available. If you've got a large outdoor space, obviously that's brilliant, particularly for the summer months. Nice to have a combination of spaces as well, but also look for those wider facilities as well. Look outside into the local community. Local secondary schools are often quite accommodating in terms of hosting, because often that links with young leaders and their initiatives as well to build those community links. Independent schools as well can sometimes be quite open to local primary schools coming and using their facilities for the benefit of that experience as well. So look at your individual setting. When you're thinking about the date, probably don't leave it too late towards that summer holiday, just to give you that chance to have a backup date, because we all know what British weather can be like, and I think with giving yourself that time to have those backup dates, also letting people, including parents and carers and any family, if you want them to attend, to know those dates well in advance, so they can book that time off work, so that it becomes potentially a really lovely community event that's fun, that's positive for those young people and families involved. Just popped on there the date of the National School Sports Week, which is an initiative from the Youth Sports Trust. The week commencing the 17th of June, which could be a nice link and a good way for you to embed your sports day into that week, as well as other sports focused activities as well. But yeah, definitely I would say set your date, set the backup date, and really look and think about the facilities. It might be that you need to separate your sports days depending on those facilities into different key stages. But as Dani said, every sports day is different. It depends on your setting and your children as well.
So why are you having a sports day, and what will you do to achieve this? If someone had asked me this about the first sports day I ever ran, my answer would have been, because we always do a sports day in July, and these are the activities that we've always done. Was this sports day a success? It was okay, but not as successful as future ones that I ran. So once I started to plan sports days around an aim from an identified need in the school, they became much more sort of successful and meaningful experiences for everyone involved. So when planning for sports day, once you have a clearly defined aim, it becomes much easier to plan the activities. The aim might relate to like one of the PE and sports premium key indicators, or an identified need in your setting, perhaps from like your PE action plan. So yeah, why is your school having a sports day? Could you just spend a couple of minutes maybe thinking about your setting and write down an aim for your sports day? This will then form the basis of the planning that you do. If you do feel comfortable as well, please do share your aims in the chat so that we can sort of share ideas, and yeah, we'll read those out.
Okay, I'll just share a few here. And again, your school is going to be unique to you, but these are some of the ones that are also unique to the school games. So if you're part of the school games, Mark, these can be really important. So raising the profile of PE, of sport and of physical activity as part of a healthy lifestyle, something that as teachers we're trying to do across the board in the curriculum. But it has a massive part of driving that. It can be a real driver in a sports day. To support pupils to develop their social skills as a key element of that sports day, to build connections, and that might be with their peers, with those in other year groups, or with those in the local community. To give pupils the opportunity to experience new activities, new sports, things that just capture their attention, things that are fun, that are exciting, and make them hopefully go on to experience those things again, and build their confidence with that. To provide an opportunity for all pupils to experience healthy competition. That can be tricky for lots of pupils, but it's about how we do that, and we're going to give you some ideas maybe about alternative ways that a sports day can be run, for children to get used to that feeling of winning and losing in a healthy way, to build community spirit, bringing the whole school together, or even the wider community, as I mentioned, with maybe local secondary schools, local organisations, sports clubs, getting other people involved. And that's, again, a massive part of PE within schools. Develop confidence and competence in their physical activity, again, in that supportive environment. And probably most of all is for it to be positive, it to be fun, children to not feel threatened by it, but to enjoy it, and to have those experiences and look back on those times. So let's just delve a little bit more deeply into creating a positive and physical activity experiences for all pupils. It's about children enjoying being active. And I'm just going to signpost you towards a few resources. We've got many resources that link with these, but there's just a few links on here which will be shared afterwards as well. The more fun and positive experiences children have, the greater they build their confidence, and that encourages lifelong love of physical activity in the future, which is our aim within PE, is our aim as teachers. We all know the benefits of sport and physical activity for mental and physical well-being, something that is quite a challenge at the moment for lots of children. So actually making those sports days really inclusive and accessible for all, having that community feel where you maybe do some work prior to that to build some team spirit. I've put a link on here to our cheerleading club pack, which could be something that is a really nice thing to build community as you build up to an event such as a sports day. Introducing different activities, not necessarily that it can be those traditional activities, but for sports day, but also those alternatives, maybe some teamwork challenges, things that are a little bit outside of the box. And again, we have links that partly shared here, but also we'll share at the end that could help you do that as well, so that everyone's part of that sports day. New sports, introducing new sports such as the Ultimate Games pack that we've got on the website at the moment. Other activities, maybe getting the archery equipment out if your school's got that, getting fencing out, or things that have been introduced recently, doing something a little bit different to include all children. But also we've got some inclusive resources as well. So looking at those sports such as bocce, such as goalball, some links here to those as well. One of the main aims Sports Day is part of that whole PE curriculum is to develop physical literacy, something that we're hearing a lot about at the moment. Less than 1 in 5 children, it's said, would be described as being physically literate, or would describe themselves as being physically literate, which is that combination of enjoying physical activity, being confident, being competent, understanding and knowing why it's important that they are building towards that physical literacy as they get older.
So you also might choose to have the aim of being raising the profile of PE and sport in school. This might be an aim, particularly if you're looking to increase physical activity levels, both inside and outside of school. It's also one of the key indicators of the PE and sports premium, which means that this could be used to help fund activities for your day. So this might include purchasing new equipment, having visitors into school, or setting up workshops within school as well with an external provider. We've got a really, really exciting summer of sport coming up, which could be used to sort of theme your day, including the Paralympics and Olympics. So if you did choose to theme your sports day around this, you could host your own Olympics and Paralympics within school, which could include traditional track and field activities, such as sprinting, hurdles, jumping and throwing activities. But you could also provide opportunities for everyone to try new activities, so things like breakdancing or table tennis or goalball. We've got some really, really fun activity suggestions, which are shared in the links below and will be shared afterwards. But these could also be provided by an external provider, so through a workshop. It could also be done by inviting in people from local clubs, and this is a really great way to develop community links and build community pathways for children, which will ultimately inspire them to be physically active outside of school. Depending on the time that you have and your sort of school's commitments, it could be part of a wider themed week around the games, where pupils get to learn about like the history of the games, kind of about the sports and countries involved, which really, really helps, I suppose, to build excitement, not just for the events, but also for your sports day. And then it probably will encourage children to go on and watch those sports and maybe participate in them outside of school as well.
So I mentioned earlier around PE being a source of helping develop children's social skills and build connections, something that I've always seen as a really important part of PE, of sport, of physical activity. Active children tend to be happier. They tend to be more resilient because they've been put in those situations where they need to persevere, they need to be determined, and often more trusting of others. That's because they're used to playing with teammates, against opponents, with different coaches, with referees, and it builds that idea of trust around each other. So one of the things that we are introducing at Twinkl as part of our PE Mastery is the STAR values, which stands for spirit, teamwork, attitude, and respect. Spirit being sportspersonship, being positive in those activities, building confidence, whilst playing with fairness, with honesty. And that's all part of that healthy competition, which you mentioned earlier. Teamwork, communicating in a positive way, being inclusive, having collective aims and goals, building those leadership skills, collaborating and cooperating, all those important social skills, which don't just sit within PE, they sit within those other subjects, but also in wider life as well as they go on towards secondary school and into the working world as well. Attitude, that focus, concentration on delivering those skills, on progressing with those skills, being determined, being resilient, and respect, not only for themselves, but obviously for others as well, recognizing their own achievements and the achievements of others, maybe a teammate, but also an opponent as well. Understanding and controlling those feelings of winning and losing in a supportive environment. So all these are really important social skills. Some of the ways that I've seen that and used it myself done really well on sports days, things like stickers being used at the end of races or at the end of activities for specific social skills, Wristbands are the sort of next step up from that, if that's something that can be organised as well for those different skills. But also certificates as well, and we've got several certificate packs which we'll link to at the end, which could just help with rewarding those social skills, as well as the achievement in the actual activities themselves. Building those local and wider connections as well is all part of the social skills of young people. So building connections with young leaders, maybe from local secondary school or maybe year sixes, sports partnerships, external providers, secondary schools, independent schools in the local area, and local clubs and coaches around the area as well. So again, it's a really important part of a sports day, or can be anyway.
Or for your sports day, you might want to sort of ensure that every pupil has the opportunity to participate in a competitive environment. I suppose this is like a more traditional approach to sports day, and also links to one of the PE and sports premium key indicators. I know that in recent years, a lot of schools have moved away from competitive sports days. However, there is absolutely nothing wrong with hosting a competitive sports day if it's right for your setting and approached in a healthy way. In fact, competition is clearly important for children to experience, which is why it is one of the key indicators of the sports premium funding. So when you approach sort of competition, approaching it in a healthy way, as I said, is really important. So this can be achieved by focusing on personal best and children not just competing with others, but also competing with themselves. So you can add a sort of competitive element through children that show the most progress, or that sort of beat their personal best, which allows all pupils an opportunity to sort of compete, but also feel that sense of achievement. Paul will talk a little bit more about this later on. Rewarding healthy participation in activities can also really encourage pupils to sort of compete in a healthy way, so demonstrating positive sporting behaviour whilst competing, which obviously is sort of an essential part of sort of sportspersonship. You might also like to consider adding in some sort of less traditional activities which can still contain a competitive element, so it doesn't just have to be your sort of traditional athletics activities. You could look at sort of water races or team sports. There's all sorts of fun activities involved in our packs that you could still run in a competitive way, but maybe are sort of like less traditional. And I suppose one thing to remember, that although it is competitive, it's still fun. And I think as sort of leads, we definitely know that, but it's really, really important to sort of remind everyone involved, including pupils and parents, that whilst it is competitive, it is also a fun event.
So how will the day run and who will support this? We'll go into a little bit more detail, but these are the things we're planning to cover over the next couple of minutes. So looking at organising a staff meeting well in advance of the day, sharing the aim of the sports day as we've already discussed, and maybe even having a go at those activities. Risk assessment, giving time for children to practice and familiarise themselves with activities, informing parents and organising sports leaders. How you're actually going to set up those activities, that depends on what you're actually planning to do, whether it's going to be a carousel or individual activities. Whether you're going to separate those key stages or whether you're going to amalgamate it into mixed teams. That very much varies depending on your setting. And then going on to the grouping of children as well. So we'll look at the how, and then Dani will move on to the who is involved. So first of all, once you have an aim and you know what activities you would like your sports day to have in there, it's looking at the risk assessment, making sure that that's shared with all well in advance to address any concerns, maybe any individual accessibility requirements needed as well from class teachers regarding individuals within their class. Looking at those facilities, particularly if you're not doing it within the school site, whether if you're going off site, making sure that there's a risk assessment in place for those places as well for that specific event. Looking at each individual activity as well, and I think a key part of this is going to be the weather check as well, and making sure that you've got that really up to date. Usually the Met Office is a good one for that. I know from outdoor learning experience, that's the one I've gone for. And having set scenarios for what you will do if there is extreme weather. Most likely it's going to be in the summer, so you're looking at probably extreme heat or a storm, and you need to plan for that within your risk assessment and within the instructions for children and parents as well. Staff meeting prior to the day. This possibly a really nice team building chance as well for people to try out the activities, to set them up, to be familiar with them. It's amazing how many people are maybe not as confident with PE, and for those people who aren't as confident, to have that time to build that confidence could be really, really useful. Also gives you the chance to delegate as well, because it shouldn't just be on one person. It shouldn't just be on that sports lead within the school. This is a whole school day, and the success of it runs on everybody working as a team. So chance to delegate, chance to get volunteers for specific things that people have got those skills in. You might have somebody who's an amazing administrator who thinks, actually, yeah, I'll take that off you, and I'm gonna do that. A chance to amend plans as well. That you see those potential things that could go wrong, and just making those little amendments beforehand. Timings, are you going to do the full day? Are you going to do half a day? Are you going to make it a sports themed day where in the morning you maybe do some classroom based activities, and then in the afternoon you go out and that's the physical activities side of it? That links nicely in with that sports week, the National Sports Week, as we mentioned. Giving children that run up to the sports day as well, preparing them to be able to give them time to practice, and that really helps those children who may be quite daunted by a sports day. It reduces those demands on those children, and maybe gives you that ability, and their class teachers the ability to see those triggers on the day and to prevent those on the actual day when it's a lot busier. How will the children be grouped? That very much depends on your setting. Can work really well in all different ways, can work well in terms of separate key stages, and amending the activities to suit the needs of those children. Can also be really nice for social skills and for community if you combine those teams and mix those teams. So it just depends on your setting. Are you going to run individual events where everyone's involved all at one time? More the traditional sort of way. Are you going to split it so you've got maybe a race section and then a carousel? Or are you going to do actually a real mix of varied alternative activities, which could look very, very different to the traditional sports day? So Daniel will now talk about the who's involved as well.
So yeah, of course, like you can't run a sports day by yourself, and the support of others is absolutely essential for the event to run smoothly, or at all, I suppose. So yeah, sports leaders, either from your school or a local secondary school, are a really, really great way to develop leadership skills and also build links with local schools, especially as we look towards transition. It's also hugely helpful to have extra hands to support with or run activities. We've used sports leaders really successfully before to run the activities, and then had staff sort of supporting each group as they moved around the carousel. And it was a really, really valuable experience for those people that were leading the activities, but also really nice for the children participating in the activities to sort of see someone not too far off of their age that was running the activity, and kind of gave them something to aspire to. You might always also find that there are some pupils that are unable to physically participate in sports day. So it might be that they've sort of got an injury, or it might be that, there might be some other reasons, but they could be given an activity to lead, or sort of other supporting roles within sports day. So things like a timekeeper or a scorekeeper, just to ensure that they can still be involved, even though they're not physically participating in sports day, they are still participating. And then there's school staff, so huge variety of school staff that will be involved in your sports day, no doubt, and will be absolutely key to the running of the day. So yeah, ensure, like Paul said, that all the details and the aim of your sports day is shared with them well in advance of the day, and then that will just help your day to run a bit smoother. If your sports day is taking place on your school grounds, the caretaker in your school is particularly important as well. Sort of try and arrange a quick chat with them to discuss sort of like all the different logistics. So like, where will spectators enter the school and where will they be when the activities are taking place? How and when will the activities be set up, as well as sort of running through the risk assessment with them, as they might be able to identify risks, as well as sort of support with mitigating them as well.
Okay, so we're moving on to guidance on inclusion, and we're just going to cover these areas over the next couple of minutes. So we'll look at personal best in a lot more detail, rewarding healthy participation, and we've talked about healthy competition as well, familiarising children with the activities, and then using what's called a step model to adapt activities. So first of all, let's take a look at personal best. So this is a way, as Danny mentioned, sometimes there's a move away from competition in sports days now. But this is a way that kind of gets that middle ground. It's where children are actually competing against themselves. They can focus on their own progress rather than comparing themselves to others. So they're looking at how do I beat that last score that I got. They're setting their own personal goals and personal targets. So again, it's not those demands from outside. It's very much intrinsic. And it allows others to get on board with encouraging each other to achieve their best. Because they're not competing against each other, they're only competing themselves against themselves. It's a more inclusive way generally of introducing competition, and particularly is a nice one from a very young age upwards as well. It celebrates progress. It celebrates and links with those social skills as well, that determination, the perseverance, the keeping going when they've got a bit of adversity or challenge, they're challenged by a certain activity. So it can be a really, really nice way to introduce subtly competition into a sports day and into other PE activities as well.
And then healthy participation. So healthy participation's broadly sort of defined by Ofsted as the knowledge of safe and effective participation. So ultimately, healthy participation will support learners to lead lifelong, healthy, active lifestyles, which is really the aim of why we do PE in schools. This is partly achieved by all children sort of feeling motivated and having positive experiences of PE sport and physical activities whilst developing key life skills. So yeah, I guess what can be done to encourage this in your sports day? So celebrating and rewarding pupils that demonstrate key sporting values such as determination and enthusiasm, and also being supportive. A really, really good way to kind of embed this within your sports day kind of ethos is before the event, kind of maybe when you introduce it to the children, perhaps in an assembly, ensure that all children are sort of aware of these values and expectations, and also that there will be rewards for this. So for children that maybe you might have a child that hasn't won an event or come first, but actually that child was the most supportive to everyone, and there's an opportunity for them to sort of gain a reward from showing those sporting values. Really important as well, I think, to remind pupils and parents to positively support participants and demonstrate respect. It can be difficult, especially in a competitive environment, but just, yeah, encouraging the sort of support of everyone. ultimately, I suppose positive and behaviour support will only help with everyone's enjoyment of the day. And as Paul touched on before, the STAR values, which we're introducing as part of like Twinkl's PE Mastery, so spirit, attitude, teamwork and respect, are again really, really important sort of sporting values to try and sort of embed within your day.
So looking at ways that you can adapt different activities for individual children or to make them more accessible activities. Mentioned the STEP criteria. Lots of you might have come across this before, but for those that haven't, we've got some resources to help you with that, which we'll link to at the end. But me and Dani will just talk through these different parts and a few examples. So first one is space. So adapting your space as much as you can for the individual pupils within your school. Again, that depends on your facilities, but adjusting the sizes of playing areas, allowing more space to maybe give children that support when they're maybe practicing an activity prior to actually competing. Reducing distances or increasing distances depending on whether you're wanting to support or challenge. Introducing things like obstacles or goals, or maybe even taking those away if you're trying to support more. Looking at the surface that they're playing on or that they're doing an activity on as well. Does that make it easier or harder? Depending on what you want to do, whether you want to make it more challenging or supportive, will depend how you make those changes there. So Dani will now talk about task.
Yeah, so you might need to adapt some activities to make them accessible for everyone and also to remove barriers. You also might sort of adapt the task to kind of level up the playing field for everyone. So you could do this by adding or removing rules from an activity, or also modifying the rules. If you've got a timed element, you might increase the time given, decrease the time given, or completely remove the sort of time limit, and depending on the children you're supporting. Or you might sort of provide a modified challenge. So you might have some children that are doing sort of like a one-handed throw, some children that are doing a two-handed throw. Depending on their ability level and their skills.
So moving to equipment then as well, and that could be something very specialist that is caters for an individual pupil or a group of pupils, but equally it can be something a lot more simple, such as the size of the ball that somebody is throwing, or the weight or the ball, whether you're again wanting to make it more difficult or easier for those children. And that can depend on your key stage as well. It might be that you would make these adaptations based on that it's a key stage 1 child compared to a key stage 2 child. So it's really important it's accessible for all in that way. Also offering visual cues as well. So it might be that you're for a jumping event, you're using the floor spots to give children that guide, or cones to give them that visual cue and visual prompt as well. So there are lots of subtle changes to make something more difficult, more challenging, or more supportive. I mentioned earlier about the space, adding obstacles, adding goals, but that's obviously also an adaptation you could do with equipment as well that fits there.
And then the people, so this relates to who's involved, who is supporting, and also like the grouping of children. So I suppose when you're looking at this in relation to sports day, are there any pupils who do require one-to-one or small group support? How will they be supported, and who will support them, making sure that you've got enough adults involved to support those children? You might also like to familiarise them with the setup and activities before everyone goes out to have a go at them. You might choose to make some groups smaller because there are some children that you know that sort of will participate more actively if they're in a smaller group. And you might also consider the grouping of children. Do you want them to be in groups with children of a similar ability level so that they're all kind of competing on a fairly level playing ground. So we've got some inclusive sport and physical activity resources at Twinkl. So we've got table cricket, bocce, new age curling, some information on goalball as well that we've got, which I'll share the link to, sitting volleyball, and some sort of para sport challenges as well. Obviously, whilst these are brilliant for children with additional needs, they're sort of inclusive sports resources, so it actually means that anyone can have a go at them, and they're really great and really fun. A lot of children haven't experienced these sports before. And there's a really exciting partnership that we've got coming up with Guide Dogs. They've got some excellent inclusive sports day activities. So I've shared the link to their website there, and have a look out on the Twinkl site for the resources that will be coming up. So it includes the guided rope race and also blindfold obstacle course. Great way to sort of develop communication and teamwork skills, and again, giving children the opportunity to experience something new.
And then if on the Twinkl website, we've got lots and lots of resources. These are just several of those resources, and links to these are on the PowerPoint, which will be shared after this, or details of that will be offered after this. But lots of resources around not only running a traditional sports day, but also running those alternative activities as well. Games cards, station cards, different team games, team building activities, and also individual sports day activities as well as things like sports day certificates, and resources that could be used prior to a sports day as well, in preparation and getting children excited about the day.
So yeah, we've obviously given you quite a lot of information there, probably quite a lot to digest. So we've put together our sort of top takeaways and actions from the information that we've given you. So yeah, first, identify a clear aim for your sports day, identify where and when it will take place, and of course include a backup plan. Plan early and involve others. Tailor your sports day to suit the children in your setting and your school community. Celebrate a broad variety of skills, social skills, as well as physical sporting skills. Make it a fun, positive, and memorable experience. Really can't emphasize how important that is, because ultimately that's what's going to encourage children to be physically active kind of long term. Adapt activities and events to support all pupils using STEP, as we've just discussed, and giving pupils and staff time to practice and familiarise themselves with the events or activities that you are providing.